Hello, I would like to share with you an Easter picture today using oil pastels and collage. So very simple materials, so just have a little watch. I've got some paper here which has a colour to it and is also slightly rough, but you could use white paper. You don't have to use paper of this colour. Anyway, have a watch and see how this goes. So I'm just using oil pastels, which are, as the name suggests, oily. But you could use wax crayons if you don't have oil pastels. Just building up a little bit of colour on the surface here, and I'm making a green hill, such as we might find at this time of year, a bit of spring grass growing on it. And in the background I'm going to have another hill as well. I'll turn this around in a moment for you to see. I'm just blending some colours, one on top of the other here. I'll just use a little piece of paper towel around my finger. Just blend that together. That. So that's the picture so far, like that. Now I'm going to prepare a bit of a sky, but first of all I want to show you the thing which I've already cut out, which is to do with Easter. I've used a piece of wallpaper, and this happens to be a brown piece of wallpaper, but you might have some other kind of paper at home, like wrapping paper, or maybe paper from a magazine, or maybe even a piece of packaging from something that you have in the kitchen or bathroom. You can take it out of its box and cut the box up. And I've just cut out a brown wooden cross, and that is going to be going here to show a picture of the first Easter. So that's what's going to be going there, but for the moment I actually need to take that away so that I can do the other things which go underneath. So first of all I'm just going to grab some colours which might be suitable for a morning sky. I'm just going to pop in a little sunrise here. So I'm just putting in a little bit of orange. Now, if you have been getting up early, perhaps to walk your dog, or because your job requires you to get up early, you will know that the sun at that time in the morning is not a really kind of hot sun. So what I've done is I put another layer over the top with a lighter and cooler kind of colour, so that we get the impression of sunrise but not great heat. And I'm just popping a bit of hazy pink around, because it's amazing in the morning that although we know the sky is mostly blue colours, it tends to have a lot of pink in it. Looks really quite interesting. And I'm just putting another colour over the top so that I don't have a big jump between the two colours. So just going a bit more into the distance like this, making sure that this comes right down to where the hills are. Don't want there to be a big gap, that would be quite strange. When we go to that, a bit of white as well to lighten it, but not to actually change its colour, just to lighten it down a little bit. Now, handy paper towel comes out again. Now this one's got a bit of green on it from when I did the hill, so I'm going to tear another piece off. I'm just going to wrap that around my finger like that. And I'm just going to blend the colours together so that we go from one colour to the next colour without there being a great big jump in between them. So I'll just show you what it looks like so far. You see here, I'm blending quite well so we don't get a great big jump. Probably do a bit more work on that. So just give me a moment or two just to do a bit more on that. So just popping in a bit more pink. A lot of art really, you know, when I'm doing demonstrations in my studio, a lot of it is actually watching what's happening. So this is why we've got the camera focused pretty closely on what I'm doing, which is pretty much identical to what you would be getting if you were in the studio. You would see me demonstrating, and then you would have a go and I would have a look at what you're doing. Now, the only difference with this is that I will have a look at what you're doing in the sense that you will send me, hopefully, by email or to the Facebook page, your drawings or paintings that you have made as a result of these videos. And then if you would like some feedback, I can give you some feedback. Otherwise, if you want to just do this and not show it to anybody, then that's fine. But it is quite nice in art to be able to show people what you have done. I engage with a lot of artists around the world, some of whom are in America and other places in the world. And of course we never physically get together, but we're certainly able to support one another in what we're doing and get a lot of encouragement from one another. So I'm hoping that at this time that will be helpful to you. So just showing you again, a little bit more blending going on. And now I'm going to pop a bit of collage in. Now I have some tissue paper here which I have been tearing rather than cutting. So the cross was cut with scissors, but this will be torn with my fingers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine that the cross is going to be here, and what I'm going to have are rays of light coming from it. So just thinking that's going to go across there. So I'm going to pop a bit of glue here. This is PVA glue, which dries clear, but it does tend to dry a little bit shiny. So what I don't want to do is put it all over the back of the picture and then I've got a very shiny sky. I would rather put it where I'm actually going to need it. I'm going to press that down, and then I'm actually going to trim later on. But first of all, I'm going to put my colours in. So I want another large pink one. I'm going to put going up there. Obviously you can spend a little bit more time getting your glue to actually match the shape of what you're putting down. I'm doing this reasonably rapidly because it is a demonstration rather than a finished piece of artwork. But that's typically what I would do anyway when teaching. I would show you reasonably swiftly so as not to take up most of the lesson what's going on, and then you would have a go yourself and I would have a look at what you're doing. Now it doesn't work quite so well, in case you're wondering, to put the glue on the back. The problem is you're likely to make little holes in it, so this is the reason why I have tended to go on here more. Just in case anybody's wondering, would it have been easier to put it on the back? Yes, but high likelihood of actually tearing the tissue paper, and then if you've got very limited supplies at home for various reasons, it's a bit disappointing if you have torn what you were intending to use and then you have to rethink your idea. You don't have to use pink. I mean, you could use orange, you could use yellow, you could use blue and white, you could use anything which is sky colour. Green probably isn't such a great idea, but certainly anything in the range of purple, pink, orange, yellow, those kind of colours would be great, and with the addition of some white if you wanted to. If you don't have tissue paper, I have another idea which I have already produced as a video, which doesn't use tissue paper at all. So there is that one as an alternative. And if you're not sure where that is, by all means contact me with the contact details at the end and I can point you in the right direction. So just popping a bit more pink in there like that. And I'm going to put a little bit more of the purple colour over here. Like this. Now, These are obviously too long, so they need trimming off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim these. And there are two ways of doing this. You could either trim it so that it's level with the edge of the paper, or what you could do is you could trim it and then you could actually paste it round onto the back. So you could twist it and put it round onto the back like that. And I might show you another example of that up here. You'll see that I've got newspaper on the table. The reason for this is otherwise you're going to have a table which afterwards is going to be quite sticky, and PVA glue does take quite a lot of scrubbing to get it off a table. I mean, you can do, but it really is a case of scrubbing it a bit like you're scrubbing dirty cooking pots. So it's quite a lot of effort, and it's an awful lot easier to put newspaper down. So I'm just folding those like that onto the back. So again, trimming this a little bit like this down here, and then just folding it so that it goes over onto the back. So there we are, that's that glued down, and now I'm just going to trim this in line with the rising sun. Like that. So you see how it is quite sticky, it's wanting to stick to my fingers, so I've just got to really send it over there and keep it away from my fingers, and get little bits of glue which you can just sort of roll off your fingers like that. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more pastel on. I'll just quickly show you how that is looking so far, because I do appreciate it is a bit more difficult to see upside down, but there is no other way really of producing a piece of artwork than to do it facing yourself. So I'm going to put a little bit more pastel in. So just taking some more of the pink pastel and maybe going in between, a little bit white in between as well. Putting a little bit of yellow in as well. But very, very lightly. You'll notice that you see that I don't always press hard. You see here that I'm barely brushing the paper with the pastels. And then just blending a little pink over the top. And by that way, what happens is any kind of lines that you produced, if you're watching quite closely just now, any kind of lines that you produce, like here, is you can just go over with the pink and it optically dissipates them so that the eye doesn't read it as being a pink stripe. Instead, it's a sort of haze, much more like you would find if you get up early. Now, it's quite traditional in many countries for people to rise early on the morning of Easter. And the reason they do that is because they remember that in the story of Easter in the Bible, the women went to the place where Jesus' body had been laid, and they had gone with spices and ointments, because that was their custom, that they would go and dress the body. And they went along, and of course they didn't find anybody. All they found were the grave clothes folded up very neatly, and they were quite shocked and upset. And then they had this amazing discovery. They discovered that in fact the man that they were talking to in the garden, who they thought was the gardener, was not the gardener at all. It was the risen Jesus. I mean, can you imagine how shocking and surprising that must have been? And they discovered that he had been resurrected. Now, it's quite difficult for most of us to draw a human figure. I mean, I do portraits and figures and things like that. But for most people, right now, to be drawing a human figure is really quite difficult. So this picture is more of a symbolism of the resurrection. So it's a reminder of there being a cross, and a reminder that in the morning they discovered that he was risen. So we've got a kind of rising kind of feeling in the picture, which I think is pretty useful for most of us at the moment, because we need some optimism, we need some hope. And I'm just hoping that for you, either just watching me doing this, or hopefully joining in and actually producing your own picture, will lift you a little, lift your spirits, make you feel a little bit more hopeful. I certainly find engaging with art very, very useful because it's all this tactile, all this touching materials. It's all this getting slightly dirty and getting really connected and really grounded, which is so useful in art, and it's such benefit to the people that come to my art classes, whether they are really young or whether in some cases they are really old. And I'm really thoughtful as I'm doing this of many of the older ladies who come to my classes who have been self-isolating for weeks and weeks at this time. We say self-isolating, they have not been completely isolated because we have been keeping in contact with videos and slideshows that I have been producing of step-by-step art, and we've also been having Zoom lessons as well, which has been great fun because we're all learning the technology together. And really hats off to anybody of 80 or over who is getting into using Zoom with me for the first time. I am just so impressed with those people. So they know who they are, but hats off to you ladies for doing that. And, you know, we live in different times and we just adapt. So if you don't have all the materials that I'm using, don't fret, just have a little think. If you want a little bit of advice about what you could use, don't mind if you ping me a quick message. Just popping in the stone that was rolled away, just here, and then I'm going to just haze in the bottom here, a sort of suggestion of a bit of gold, which could either be interpreted as daffodils, daffodils growing in the springtime, or we could be thinking of a bit of kind of heavenly gold and hope in the situation that we find ourselves in. In art, often we artists leave things a bit open to people's interpretation. That's part of the joy of art, is that people can find something within the art. That's a reminder of the stone that was rolled away. So when those women went looking for that body in the cave and they did not find it, they found this hefty great stone, which I'm showing in the distance here, rolled away. They found those grave clothes folded up, and they found that the man who they thought was the gardener was the risen Christ. And so we have this rising effect of the sunrise on Easter morning. So if you would like to do this, grab your pastels, grab any little bits of paper that you have around the house, or if you don't have that, maybe some wax crayons or some pencil colours, or maybe if you come to one of my painting classes anyway and you have some paints at home, do them in paint instead. I know you're all more than capable. If you've never been to one of my art classes before, please join in with this and please show me the results. My contact details are there. You can email me through the website or you can message me through the Facebook page. And I hope that you have a really joyful Easter. I'm not talking about a happy Easter, I'm talking about a joyful Easter. And I hope that you do find some joy in your Easter this year.